everyone, and welcome to episode 105 of the Video Games Ahoy Podcast. Sorry, I usually dance there, I just didn't do that. I'm your host, Jonathan Radford, and today I'm joined by Zach Hamilton.
I always go last.
I know, well, it's returning again. He's returning. It's Callum Hurley.
Hey, it's return.
It's return. It's the return of the big C, Mr. Callum. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm all good, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Great, man. It's great to have you back on the show. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Yes.
I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of you now. It's great.
Yeah.
I always have a good time. I'm glad to be here more often.
Yeah, it was we were supposed to do it last week. I should just let you know, but for health reasons we could not. I decided to be a fool and go to the hospital for 8 hours, which was nice and fun. But by nice and fun, I mean
You're doing okay now. You're doing all right.
I'm fine now, but at the time,
Good.
I was
Good.
not. But I am fine. I should reassure Zach. Apparently,
Yeah, it's basically
just Zach.
It's only me that cares.
But yeah, how are you two gents doing? How are you? How is the world?
Well, we've had a great week for new information on new games.
Yes,
We got a lot to talk about.
we've had lots of news.
This is one of the first times where I feel like we've briefed before we started about what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, there's quite a few big there's quite a few big stories as well. Like it's been a weird week. So yeah, we'll have some cool stuff to talk about as well, because there's been some really cool trailers we'll talk about probably in the middle of the news. But we'll get into some juicy stories at the start as well. Before we begin, if you are also Callum, I'm really enjoying your background right now. It just piqued my interest because it's like
darker than I intended it to go.
It's very
atmospheric.
Yeah, it's very atmospheric. It kind of leads into my point that if you're listening to us and you want to see us and check out Callum's background, then we're on YouTube. These always go on YouTube, and they're always on Twitch. I think they're on Twitch for 30 days. So if you want to go on Twitch, because Twitch it's quite easy to watch it on Twitch actually. So yeah, go back and rewatch it on Twitch. We're on there as well. But if you've also watched us on YouTube, then I guess you'd be aware that we're a podcast. So I guess you could listen to us just without the face stuff.
If you wanted to.
If you wanted to, but why would you want to miss Callum's You're missing Callum's background. You're also missing Zach's chair.
My chair.
And my orange t-shirt. This is one of my favorite t-shirts. I have two of these.
Are you wearing is that your Video Games Ahoy t-shirt? No.
It's not, no. That's been completely and utterly worn down.
Has it been? Yeah.
Just completely and utterly broken. Yeah, which is a shame. I should probably get another one. All right, let's get into the news because we got quite a few stories, and we'll start off with this is going to be a tricky one because I don't think I think there were a lot of emotions surrounding this one, and it's going to be quite tricky to navigate because even my own emotions got swept away a bit because of the implications of what was being spoken about, and of course, I'm talking about Bayonetta. We'll try not to talk about it too long because I think it's kind of been, finished now. We've kind of had a rough conclusion or an idea about what actually happened. But yeah, last week was it last week, Callum? Because I think you were on top of this as well, weren't you? Last week.
Yeah.
It's been a while because we weren't here last week. I don't know if it was the week before, but basically the previous voice actor, Helena Taylor, for Bayonetta, posted a series of tweets where she discussed her pay with Platinum, and initially it seemed like she was only being offered $4,000. I think that at least that seemed like to me that was the general vibe, $4,000. But there wasn't really much.
That was her direct claim.
Yes, there wasn't really any more context given to that, which is what kind of not confused a few people, but some people were a bit like, oh, maybe we should wait for more context, and other people were like, well, we have no reason to not trust it. That's kind of where I stood, really. I was like, why would I not trust what she's saying? Why would I not trust what she clearly wants to do it. She's clearly upset. That was the one thing I took away from it, is that she seemed so upset by the whole thing, just really, really upset. And that was I guess the initial starting point that people were like, wow, this person who's done amazing work with the previous Bayonetta games, and I think there's a film as well, or an anime that came out around 2014, and people were just really, really annoyed. Myself, one of them. I like the Bayonetta games, and I thought she was really good. Then as it transpired, there was a few articles that came out, one of them with Bloomberg, another one with VGC, both stating pretty much the same thing, that it wasn't just $4,000. It was, I think it was $4,000 per session, and the sessions are about 4 to 5 hours each. It was landing around somewhere, the actual total was landing around somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, which is a different claim. Weirdly, even if she'd said she only been offered $20,000, I'd still kind of be like, that's still not enough. Like, you're still being underpaid for what you're doing, considering how much the game makes. I think what annoyed people so much is that we were led to believe that it was a much lower figure than what was actually seemed to be agreed. Am I kind of right with it? Are those kind of the facts of the situation? Have I missed anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Bang on. I think the difficulty is, or at least, you know, from my point of view, is the kind of dishonesty at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is, you know, if you go back and watch the videos, there's no misinterpreting it. Like, she says she was offered $4,000 for the entire game, and that's what shocked everyone, because that is insane. That would be insane. And of course we all believed it, because we know generally VA's not super well paid, and that is a problem. But the two things that rang really bizarrely to me when those videos came out, the first one was considering the fact that Jennifer Hale was her replacement. Jennifer Hale is a huge proponent for proper pay in the VA industry, and is one of the key proponents for unionizing, which isn't as big in the VA industry in America. So, but the other thing, and maybe it was just me, it felt weird that she was calling for a boycott.
Yes.
And it's not normally something that the person who's been disserviced calls for themselves. That was just a thing that I found bizarre. And then, of course, as it transpired, it was $4,000 per session. The only thing I think, and apologies if you did say this and I missed it. So yeah, there was the $4,000 per session. It was going to be 4 or 5 sessions, 15 to 20,000.
Yeah.
When she turned that down, and they were recasting her, they came back to her with another offer and said, but we would love for you to cameo in the game.
Yes.
Play a small other part in the game. And that was essentially a flat rate of 4,000 for one session for a cameo.
Yeah.
And that's essentially why she can claim that she didn't lie in her original video.
Yep.
So yes, she was offered 4,000 total, but that was after negotiations broke down with a higher price, and that 4,000 was not for her to voice Bayonetta. It was for her to play some other character.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I think that is pretty much covered it. Pretty much. There are actually. I've realized while you were talking, you mentioned Jennifer Hale. There's 2 other things as well. One, that the fact that she got brought into it at all was kind of disgraceful, because, as you've said, Jennifer Hale is not only like a fantastic performer, does all these amazing things. Like, they just didn't. There was no need. They just didn't deserve to be brought into this all. Like, because they might not have known why this had all happened. They'd just been offered the job.
You often don't.
Yeah, exactly. Why would they go, oh, this person's not, like, why would you go into contractual details when, you know, for all you know, it's just they're not busy. They're busy. Sorry, they're not available. They're busy. That could have been the situation. And I mean, it just, that was the one thing I think I think more than anything else, as soon as they started talking about that, and obviously the boycott as well, I did find that weird. I know what you mean. It's kind of like if we were the ones going, oh, people should boycott this game based on the information presented to us, that would feel different. But the fact that she was coming out and saying, boycott this game, no one buy it, and if you do buy it, I'm not saying you're a bad person, but that's all that's kind of left. That was the kind of vibe. And you know, some people did boycott it. There was a big thing on Twitter. A lot of people, you know, rallied behind her, and now have kind of had to take steps back. And the worst thing, not so much the worst thing about the whole situation, because there were many bad things about this, but it just feels like, because of that now, it's one of those things where some people will be less inclined to trust another voice. Some voice actors now will be less willing to come out and say, I'm getting paid this amount, this is not enough. Because they'd be like, oh, but you're lying, clearly. Because this example of the previous big example where someone clearly lied and deceived people. And I don't know. That whole thing is just. Also, like, we should bring it to Hideki Kamiya. He had a complete meltdown on Twitter. Like, he's pretty. I find him a bit bizarre on Twitter anyway. And he's a bit.
Oh yeah.
He's a bit of a ridiculous person, and his whole Twitter thing in general is just really, really bizarre. But he had a proper. He broke his Twitter page
to the point where his account got disabled for a while. I don't know if it's back up yet or not, but
I think it is. He was blocking hundreds of people, and the Twitter.
He was blocking almost anyone who responded to him. It got to the point even people who were kind of on his side. He just started blocking people who were replying or quote tweeting him, regardless of what it said. It was crazy.
Yep. But yeah, to kind of like wrap up the story again, I think there's just a lot of disappointment on all sides, really. This is just ultimately the thing we should rally around is the voice actors should be paid more regardless.
Yes,
especially when
don't want it to take away from that story.
Exactly, when games are making so much money. I think there was a similar story about the voice actor for Grand Theft Auto 4, Niko Bellic. He was only paid like $100,000, which does it's a lot of money. I think it was $100,000, but considering how much those games make.
Yeah, actors in TV and film, especially film, get residuals. And so, the further the film goes on to make X amount of money, the more they are compensated. And that just doesn't exist in games. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, what didn't help muddy the waters was Helena Taylor's claim that Bayonetta was a $450 million franchise.
Where did she get that number
is
from?
Way off. So the leading theory that I've seen, and it's at least what seems to be the clearest one, is if you go onto VG charts and look at the sales of every Bayonetta game, and now VG charts, it lists everything. So it lists every re-release, every platform, everything. And if you take every Bayonetta game, sales from every platform, every re-release, and times it by 60 for $60, you get 450 million.
Right.
So that seems to have been where that number's plucked from. That's not how that works. A lot of those will have been bought on sale. I mean, Bayonetta is one of those games you've been able to buy on Steam for like £2 for years. Released in collections with Vanquish, where it's only half the value, and even then that collection was £20. Bayonetta generally sell, like, even Bayonetta 2 and 1 when they came to Switch only sold just over 1 million units.
I was going to say 1 to 2 million. That's kind of where it lands.
Everything on Switch sells 1 to 2 million.
Yeah,
units.
exactly.
It's a fairly niche genre. So unfortunately that kind of helped muddy the waters a bit. And that's one of those things where I think, unfortunately, I don't think Helena Taylor tried to just make that up. Unfortunately, she is misunderstanding the size of this franchise as well, which unfortunately would internally inflate your valuation of what your work should be worth. If you've got a figure of 450 million in your head, you would be thinking, why am I being offered 20,000?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually.
So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. It's a shame.
Yeah, I think that sums it up really. The whole thing is just a shame. It really, really is. It didn't have to be like this. The whole situation didn't have to be like this. I don't know. And this is kind of only going to, I imagine, only rumble on now as well, because she had an NDA, right? And she broke that. And she broke it to tell mistruths, which is only going to make them more likely to come after her. So it's like...
And only going to make it more difficult for her to be cast again in the future. Her IMDb is not massive. It's a shame. Because I was very much the same. I saw the video, I was 100% with her, and then when all of it transpired, it was a kind of mix of... I can see where she got confused in all this. At the same time, she knows where she was misleading at certain points. Just, all round unfortunate. I'm still going to play Bayonetta 3 at some point, and I'm sure Jennifer Hale did a great job. She always does.
Yeah, she does.
But it is a shame. I never enjoy a voice actor switch. As a big Metal Gear fan, I've been through that, and can tell you
that was brought up quite a few times. Actually, that whole situation was brought up quite a few times. But yeah, all right. Well, let's leave it there, because I think maybe we might hear some stuff for this further down the road. But I think realistically, the situation is it's done as a specific topic of what's actually happened. There may be repercussions from it now, but it's whatever, sadly. All right, let's talk about something a bit, I was going to say more happy, but then we're going to talk about Silent Hill, and that's a really happy franchise. But Silent Hill is back, and it's back with a bit of a bang, a bit of a bang. So I should preface this by saying I've never played a Silent Hill game, but I know people that have, and I know people that love those games. As someone that's recently gotten into Resident Evil, I'm actually quite psyched. However, there's a caveat to this whole thing. And that's Bloober Team is remaking Silent Hill 2, and some people are not happy. Callan, I was going to come to you specifically because I feel. Do you have any thoughts about Bloober Team specifically?
I understand why people are not so sure, but I think the thing I'm trying to keep in mind is that they're not only not working alone this time. They are also working based on something that already exists that they can use kind of like a blueprint. So yeah, I don't know. I know that people weren't super crazy about the medium. I had a fair amount of enjoyment for both Layers of Fear and Blair Witch, but I played those in VR, so I can't speak to how they were as flat games. But I know people weren't crazy about the medium when it came out, and so are a little concerned about Silent Hill 2.
Zach, are you a fan of Silent Hill? I don't think we've ever actually spoken about Silent Hill.
Probably never spoken about. I didn't play them. As you know, I did play the Resident Evil series when I borrowed a PlayStation from a friend when I was a kid, and then more recent. Well, the thing that really got me into the Resident Evil thing was the remakes on the GameCube.
Yep.
So. Has Silent Hill had a remake yet? Does anyone know this? Or
nope.
The last game.
They're going straight to Silent Hill 2.
That I find a bit weird as well. They've gone straight to 2.
That was one of the things that kind of struck. I mean, I know that Silent Hill 2 for some people is a big deal, but I kind of feel like for other people, it's whatever. So yeah, that's the long-winded version of saying no. I've never played
Would you be interested to play Silent Hill 2 based on like?
Kind of, yeah. Part of me just wants to go back and play the originals, but then I wouldn't especially do that with the Resident Evil series, so I guess there's no reason for me necessarily to do it for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently there's not an easy way to play Silent Hill 2 in terms of, I think the only version that's available is a bad one. Again, I've never played it. I've only read a few things about it. It's
the only one you could get would be the Silent Hill HD collection on PS3 or 360, and that thing was beyond broken, and they never fixed it
because it was based on that was based on because they lost the code. Like it happens so many there's a lot there's so many stories of like Japanese developers losing like the code base to just entire games. It happened to Final Fantasy 8 as well. Like they lost
they
it.
had to rebuild parts of that.
Yeah, that's why it took so long for them to remake. Like that's why they put out 7 and 9 like really really quick, but like 8 it took like 2 more years because they had to rebuild loads of it. But apparently they lost it. That's why the only version that's left is kind of like a bit of a dumpster fire when it comes to bugs and stuff.
Yeah, the version that was provided to, I can't remember which team did the remasters, but the builds they were provided to work on were pre-release builds, so just had so many bugs and missing features from the released game. That's mad. It was almost bizarre that they bothered to continue and release that HD collection.
Yep. But yeah, there was a few other things announced on Silent Hill 2, and I guess this brings into into conversation like a broader conversation as well about Konami, because this is the biggest thing Konami's really done gaming wise in a while. Like they brought there was a few games. There was we got Silent Hill 2, so that there's a remake for that, and then there was Silent Hill Townfall. Yeah, Silent Hill F as well. So there's a few. There was
Silent Hill Ascension.
Was that the film?
That Silent Hill Ascension was the kind of Twitch streamy. Yes, everyone joins in to play together and make decisions.
Yeah.
And then there was the film, which is also Silent Hill 2.
But yeah, they brought it back in quite a big way, and that's good. I mean, it's nice to see Konami back. I mean, it's weird with Metal Gear Solid because I've been desperate to play that series for a while. I only ever played 2 and 5. I played 1, I played 2, and I played 5. So I missed 3 and 4 because I didn't have a PS3. So like, yeah, so I'm kind of like holding off because they've been rumors for a long time they're remaking all those games. So yeah, I'm gonna wait and see. But it is nice to see Konami back to a certain degree. Now we just want more Castlevania. Give us some Castlevania. That's what
I think Konami are doing the right thing. I'm led to believe a couple of those Metal Gear rumors, largely just because some of them came with the Silent Hill Bloober Team rumor.
Yeah.
Which obviously has now turned out to be true. What Konami are doing now makes the most sense. They're not making any of these games.
Exactly.
They don't want to get back into game development. They never did. It's why they haven't made anything really in a long time besides ports, and I guess there was Cowabunga Collection, but that wasn't developed by them either. But licensing it out makes sense.
Yep.
The fact that we're getting so many games leads me to believe that in their search to license out Silent Hill, they had so many developers be like, yeah, let's do this, and here's our idea. They just kind of went, oh no, let's just do a bunch of them.
Yeah. That makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Apparently as well, I've read, I don't know how, like, so this is, I don't know if we come to a point where it's just like me speculating and reading stuff and maybe partially forgetting because I have ADHD. But I think I've read something about like Japan tightening their gambling laws, which is why like they're having issues with the pachinko machines.
Interesting.
That is something I read. That could be absolute nonsense. Take that with a grain of salt. Maybe go and research yourself. But that is something I heard, which is why it could be why they're leaning back like into the gaming side of things. If
it makes sense. That's been their key other business.
Yeah. For a while.
I'm really praying for some Metal Gear.
Me too.
I need it.
Would you just take remakes, or would you want another game? I guess because it would be without Hideo Kojima. It would be because
I guess it depends what the new game would be. I mean, for as much as I love Hideo Kojima, and the point where during the Death Stranding World Tour, I got in the queue so I could meet him at like 1 a.m. and stood out in the rain for like 10 hours. I would happily. I think the series can move on without him. I think every series can move on without its creator. It depends how they do it. They did wrap up the series so neatly. I would need any new game to be different characters, different world, change all of that.
I think that's the best. Really.
Remakes I'm down for as long as they don't change too much. As long as we're talking
make them better,
same story, same general, but modern graphics, modern gameplay. I'm 100% down for that. If the Servios MGS3 remake is true, that's the kind of thing I would love to see more than anything. If they decide to make a new game, I am open to it. As I say, it depends what they do.
3 is the one that really entices me because I've heard so many people talk about how much they love that game. So that is the one I think I'm really excited by. Should also put out ACP's in the chat. Hey, ACP, how are you doing? Okay, let's move on because we still got a few things left. So we've got so the next couple of stories will just be about like a couple of trailers that are released. We'll talk about them fairly quickly over the next couple of minutes. First thing is there was a load of Resident Evil stuff announced. So in 2 days, I believe, 28th, I think, Resident Evil 8 is getting its update, its DLC, which I'm going to talk about later on because I actually beat Resident Evil 8 in the time that we did the last podcast to this podcast, so I'm really excited for that. Resident Evil 8, but they also talked a lot about Resident Evil 4. I think that's kind of where I want to talk about because Zach Hamilton, you might be the biggest Resident Evil 4 fan that I know.
That's really interesting. I'm glad that we're talking about this because me and you have been texting about this.
We did.
Because we have quite different kind of views on it. Very respectful debate.
It was so respectful.
Well, because I can't remember what happened, but I got a message from you saying that you were like hyped for Resident Evil 4 because, in previous podcasts, you talked about the fact that you didn't enjoy the original.
It's not so much I didn't enjoy the original. It was more the way, like knowing that the remake was coming. I was like, I never played it. I think I'll just wait for the remake because it looks good.
So I watched the trailer for Resident Evil 4 and you sent me a message. You're like, oh, it looks so awesome. I'm super excited. And
then you called me a bitch.
I didn't want to burst your bubble. I don't want to be like, no, it sucks. Because I don't think it sucks. I like it a lot. First things first, They've massively overhauled the designs of the characters and the way that they portray some of those characters in a much more modern light, which I'm thrilled about, because when you go back and play that game, it doesn't hold up to the standards of 2022 by any stretch.
The merchant doesn't sound the same though.
But the merchant doesn't sound. But that highlights a really important problem, is that I think that they were unable to extract the camp nature of the storytelling from some of those old, problematic ideas, and we lose out on stuff like the merchant's voice being really fun, or like I can't remember the name of the villain, but there's a villain who's like very over the top. I won't talk too much about it, spoil them.
Yeah, what's his name?
Silly voice, and we heard their voice, and it was, again, the way it just didn't feel fun. Resident Evil 4 is a really fun game. It's spooky and scary, and it's silly, and it's got loads of like pithy dialogue. It's cheesy, and I feel like they've taken a lot of that away, in favor of a more sort of realistic take. I guess it's more kind of in like the JRPG design, modern JRPG designs. And I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm a little bit, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. And on top of that, I don't know about you guys. Callum, you've played the original, have you?
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice anything about the combat that stuck out to you from the trailer?
You mean other than being able to run and shoot at the same time?
That's definitely like the first thing that steps out. That's I think I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that's I think that's probably just an overall good idea.
Are you thinking about using a gun or a knife to parry a chainsaw?
That was amazing.
I wasn't talking about that. That's a really interesting point. Again, it's. I guess the problem with any remake is you're either going to upset people because it's too similar or because it's too different.
Yep.
And I think it looks like they're doing a good job. I'm obviously going to be disappointed because I have nostalgia for the original, and I still would play that game to this day. So yeah, I don't know. I've got my reservations about it. I'm super excited to have a go of it and play it and see what it all comes out like. What are you guys thinking about it? I want to hear your takes on this.
Well, I just want to as a counterpoint, really, we kind of landed on the whole. I've recently just come off playing a load of Resident Evil games, but most of them, in fact, all of them, have come out since 2017. So I'm playing. When I have a frame of reference for Resident Evil, apart from some of the older games where I played as a kid, Code Veronica. And 1 for some reason I played those 2 and scared the shit out of me. I don't really have a frame of reference for the Resident Evil series, so it's whenever I play a new game, it's just kind of a new game. So it was the same thing when I played Resident Evil 3, the remake of Resident Evil 3. People hated that game, hated that game. I played it and went, oh, it's not quite as good as the 2 remake that I played, which is really good, but it was fine because I had no frame of reference to what I was missing out on. So to me, it was just it was good. It was fine. But I know people obviously were despised what they did. To be honest,
that's how it was with 2 and 3 when they came out originally. Everyone was like, yeah, Resident Evil 2, Leon and Claire, cool, 2 people, bang, bang. And they got to 3 and they were like, oh, it's Jill again. And it's more linear and it's too easy. You know what I mean? I feel like people always get mad about the next one, right?
But I just thought it was an interesting thing that the points that you were giving about why you didn't think it didn't look as good to you were all because you know this game so well and you know the series, whereas I was it was just going straight off my head.
Ultimately, the main thing that I would take away from it is I would rather they do something new and different, because the old one isn't going anywhere. I can play that for if I want to buy a GameCube and a copy of Resident Evil 4, it's not. You know what I mean? I can just play that. That's completely fine.
Hey man, you could probably play it on a fridge freezer.
It's on everything.
It's on everything. Exactly, right? So it's not going anywhere. So I think if anyone's feeling the same way as I did when I saw that trailer, I was a little bit disappointed. Just remember that you can go and play the old one. You can pretend that the new one's it doesn't even exist if you want to. Or if you're like me, you can go and have a go of it and see if you like it. And then maybe you'll like it for different reasons. That to me seems as good a way as I can frame it.
That was all neat and fair. This is not how differing opinions are supposed to go, Zach.
Yeah.
You bitch.
Yeah.
All right, Callum, do you have anything else? Before I was going to move on to something else, but do you have anything else to wrap
the
up
only
there?
tiny quick thing I was going to say is in terms of kind of losing that kind of campiness, that's what these have been to an extent. Like Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes did that too. But Resident Evil 4 hit so many more people in such a different way that obviously you're starting to feel that there's not been as much nostalgia for Resident Evil 2 and 3 as there has been for 4. I'm a big fan of 4. I'm actually playing through it in VR at the moment.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool.
I really want to play that.
Really recommend it. If you're in Ealing at any point, let me know. Come play it.
Man, I didn't realize you were in Ealing. That's crazy. I just found this out on stream. I'm in Chiswick. I'm literally like 10 minutes down the road. 10 minutes down the road. That's mad.
I had no idea.
Telling everyone where I live now. Come visit.
Same. But yeah, so I personally am quite excited for it. I am a big fan of the original, but I also am very interested in a more horror take. It wasn't the most scary Resident Evil game. And I am just very, very curious if they're going to somehow attempt to do this with 5. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's a topic for another time, but like, considering how much people dislike 5 and 6, specifically, especially 6, I wonder if they're just going to skate on over from those and move on to something else.
Code Veronica next. Anyway.
Yes, Code Veronica. I'd definitely be down for that. I'd absolutely be down for. I'm gonna talk about a topic that I know nothing about. It's Pokemon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass over to the two people that do know what they're talking about because I didn't even watch the trailer. Off you go. I'm gonna just step back out of this conversation and allow you two to talk about Pokemon.
Callum, have you seen all the updates? Are you up to date on the Pokemon situation?
Yeah. So I watched a bunch of I know a bunch of people got to play a few hours of it.
Oh, that's
recently.
Right. Yes. They had some of the previews come out.
Yeah, and got to put up big previews, and I'm looking forward to it. It's looking good.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting. Was there anything that jumped out to you, like specifically? I guess you're talking about specifically on the previews. Anything that jumped out to you from those?
Yeah, I mean, the first one I would say is just kind of, I think in terms of the open world nature, I think it improves on Legends Arceus in the best way possible. Firstly, in that it's actually open, with one exception. There is a central town that has a loading screen between it. Not the end of the world. But no, I think it's got the right amount of exploration. You've still got that kind of Pokemon out in the wild thing, but it doesn't have any of the action RPG elements from Legends Arceus, so you're no longer dodging and diving and throwing Pokeballs, with an aim and throw button. It's kind of mixing the open world with the standard RPG nature of the original games. And yeah, I think it's looking great. I'm loving the new design so far. New Ghost Dog looks cool.
Have you got any thoughts on the auto battle system?
I'm gonna have to see how it feels in the hand before I can really judge it. I think it's interesting. I guess it depends. Firstly, how many Pokemon I can send out to auto battle at once. I think it's just the one, and that's kind of
time at the moment.
That's kind of my issue there, because you've got these things where team, is it Star or whatever the team's called? I can't remember
the name of Team Rocket.
You storm their base.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah.
And the main reason auto battle is there is that so that you can throw your Pokemon, you go battle over there, while I do something else. If you were able to send even just 3 Pokemon out to auto battle at the same time, I'd be like, that's a really cool feature. You storm this base, you send out 3 Pokemon to go, smash it up and whatever. But right now, my concern, I'm not a massive shiny hunter, but some of the people who played the preview did check with the staff, and they did confirm that the Pokemon you send out will not discriminate based on whether a Pokemon's shiny or not. Yeah. So you could send out a Pokemon to auto battle, and it just kill a shiny if you're not paying attention. So I don't know. I think what is useful though is if you just want to grind for XP, that's a good, quick way of doing that. And I appreciate that. You do get less XP than if you battle manually. But to go up to, for instance, I think it was in Cereby's video, when you're storming one of the bases, you're against like 3 or 4 Torkoal and Houndour and whatever. Just send out some Pokemon to auto battle, and then within a few seconds, hey, there's some XP. It makes grinding easier. Yeah. I think it's interesting, but I'll really have to see how it affects the gameplay.
Well, this is the movement that they've been working towards for the last few games, where they've been trying to find ways to improve the grinding system because they appreciate that times have moved on and it's not as interesting as it once was to sit and do it. But I mean, one of the other things, of course, is then that is also part of the appeal, isn't it? Is, you know, in JRPGs in general, is that grinding process. I think it's a good balancing system. I think it's a good idea. I actually hadn't considered the option of being able to, you know, go into a big fight and send out a few at a time, and like, while that wouldn't give you loads to, you wouldn't be doing anything specific, it would give a really cool atmosphere of like fighting your way through it. That would be really cool. It would feel very like anime, you know, it would feel much more like, you know, the cartoon from when we were kids and even to now, you know. Yeah, I hadn't really considered that.
Well, yeah, you know, imagine if, I don't know if you've played, for instance, Final Fantasy 15, which I'm playing through at the moment.
Yes.
You can command your teammates to do certain things at certain times. If it was something like that, where it was maybe a little more hands-on, a little less auto, but you send out a couple of Pokemon, and maybe on the D-pad, each direction commands a different Pokemon to attack. So you kind of have a level of control over multiple Pokemon at once. I think it could be a really cool idea. Unfortunately, Game Freak do this thing where they introduce a new feature, and in the next game, instead of building on it, they delete it and pretend they never did it.
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of forced to because of the nature of the battles. You know, if you had, for instance, if you had terrestrialization, you know, then you feature alongside Megas, alongside Dynamax, you would have an absolute. I mean, ultimately, what would actually happen is that one of those things would win out. You know, it would be more advantageous to have Mega Revolutions than it would be to have Dynamax, just because they're better. I mean, I don't know. That's just one example of the way it could end up, depending on the way. Even if you play competitive right now, even when a new move, like one move, gets added to the roster of, it completely changes the way in which, you know, it completely changes the ranks of what Pokemon are worth having on any given team.
Yeah.
So I can see why they want to do that. And they definitely don't want to, you know, have terrestrialization come out and then have no one use it, because actually, you know, Z moves are better anyway.
Well, what I really enjoy about terrestrialization is that any Pokemon can be any Terra type.
Yeah.
And that there'll be certain rare Terra types. So you can be fighting against someone who releases a Pokemon, you bring out the perfect counter for it, and then boom, they terrestrialize into a type that you weren't expecting. I think it's a cool idea. It's something that changes up the gameplay a lot more than Gigantamax did.
Yeah, I think Gigantamax, for me, Gigantamax and Z moves were limited in their strategic you know, capabilities. It felt like, all right, I just win because I'm big now, you know, rather than as you say, you know, there's this nice idea that you can have this pivot, you know, and that's one of the great things about the modern Pokemon system. Obviously, when when it all started, it was like, all right, I have water, you have fire, you lose.
Yes.
Get wrecked. But one of the nice things now is that they are making, you know, since like Gen 4, maybe 3, arguably, it has felt much more complex than that. And I think terrestrialization is a very good way of building on that. And the design is nice. I like the design choice. It's cute. It's really cool.
And, you know, for as much as you can see where the Switch is really, really limited and is really trying to keep it together, that poor thing, this does look really good. I think they've taken in a lot of the criticisms of the way that Sword and Shield looked, and Legends Arceus to an extent. Every Pokemon has some interesting texture to them that they didn't have before. It's still not, you know, you're still not going to be comparing this and God of War Ragnarok and trying to figure out which one looks better, but it's a step in the right direction. I think the issue they run into a lot with their fandom is the fact that there are multiple teams in Game Freak now. So this and Legends Arceus were being made at the same time. So they can't necessarily or couldn't implement feedback from Legends Arceus into this game. I mean, that was this year. How mental is that?
That is crazy. Was it January when it came out?
Yeah, it was January, yeah.
Yeah, that's mad. It's mad. Are you gents pokeyed out? Should we move on to the last story?
Using your mind.
No. Honestly, it's weird because like I always want like I always get that thing every time a new Pokemon game's out. I'm like, I think I'm gonna get this, and then it gets to the release day. I'm like, no. Like, and it's not because like I have such incredible fond memories of Pokemon, but it's just I don't know. There's something about it that like it's just not for me anymore. I think realistically, I would just want remakes of Red and Blue throughout all of eternity. I just love those.
Everybody else.
Those first.
I mean, hey, they did
Pokemons.
it. Let's Go Pikachu and everything.
I loved Let's Go Pikachu because it catered exactly to me. All right, let's move on to the final story because I'll actually. Well, no, let's go to the final story. That is that CD Projekt Red have just announced they're going to remake the original Witcher game, which is interesting because I don't think many people played the original one because it was specifically only on PC.
I didn't.
I definitely haven't. I think 2 only came to 360 as well as PC, and then obviously 3 was the first one that came multi-platform. So I'm really intrigued by this. It's going to be an Unreal Engine 5. I'd like to assume it's only going to be current. I say current gen. I guess it is current gen now. We are current gen.
It is current gen. We're 2 years in.
Yeah, I keep saying next gen, but it's not anymore. It's current gen. So I assume, based on this, it's only going to be on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S.
I hope so.
I'd like to think we're getting to that point now where games that are coming out in the next couple of years are specifically aiming at those consoles because
I mean, it's already going a bit far. I mean, for instance, in 2015, we weren't getting many PS3 360 games.
No. God, no.
In fact, we got like some of our last big ones. I think the last big one was Metal Gear Solid 5, which was at the end of 2015. Mm-hmm. But right now, looking at the upcoming slate, almost everything is still coming to those consoles.
Yep.
And I understand because of console shortages, etc. But I do feel like it's holding games back. And there was a thing I read the other day. Some developers have been pleading with Microsoft to drop their Series S requirement because it's holding back their games. But yeah, sorry, not to hijack the topic. I do hope that the Witcher remake is current gen only.
I mean, to be fair, there's not much more to say than that. I mean, The Witcher 3 exploded. From The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3. I mean, I think, again, The Witcher 2 sold maybe like 5 million. The Witcher 3 sold 40. Like, it's just one of those things. It just hits, it lands, and it makes sense why they'd want to go back and remake a game which not many people got to play the first time, make it look nice and shiny, and just present it again. I mean, it's the origins of Geralt, I guess, in that the origins of Geralt in that gaming world, that gaming sphere. So I think a lot of people will be up for that, especially me. I loved 3. I just loved it. Bloody great. All right, let's talk about games we played, because it's been a while. I'm just going to talk about Resident Evil really quickly, very, very quickly as well. Before that, I'm currently playing Persona 5. Zach, I just love anime, I think that's just it. I think you need to start like just suggesting animes to me and Rosie, because like
next time I come see you, maybe I'm just going to put an anime on.
Just put an anime on, because I'll probably just sit there and go, this is amazing. Why? I've just been playing. I'm like, I think it's because I grew up playing Final Fantasy, and that I've always loved JRPGs because of that, and so it's always easy for me to just get hyped on animes. I just never watched them. I just never watched them, and I probably should.
Easily missed.
But yeah, what were you saying?
Are you an anime guy, Callum?
A little bit.
A little bit, sure.
I dabble.
Sorry, I didn't want to take away from you there, Johnny. I just wanted
No, it's fine.
I wanted to find out.
No, it's fine. It's just weird. I just wasn't expecting it, and then you pointed out. I was like, my life's been a lie. It's been an entire lie. But no, the game I wanted to talk about was Resident Evil 8, because the last time I saw Callum, which is about 2 weeks ago now, we actually spoke about it, that I was going to buy it. I did buy it, and then I beat it, because it's not very long. I think it's like 8 hours. It's really good. I don't think it's as good as 7.
Agreed.
Callum, because Zach hasn't played it, so I don't want to say too much.
You say whatever you like, and I'll just
What I
That's
was gonna
okay.
say,
I won't spoil anything.
what I'll say, I'll say the because the game is broken up into like 4 sections. Yeah, cool. So just as a reference, but you know what its 4 sections are, and obviously there's the final section as well. I loved the first 2 sections. I thought the first section was awesome. The very, very first one was awesome. I thought the second one was terrifying. The second one, genuinely, there's a moment in the second section where I actively screamed and then instantly text Zach saying, "Yeah, I think this might be scarier than 7," because that is, I didn't scream. I actively like, "Rah!" because I was terrified.
To try and remember without spoiling, was that doll related?
Yes.
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 Yes. That also
in the basement, shall we say? Yeah, there we are.
that was the scariest part of the game for sure.
100%.
Absolutely messed me up.
I was like shaking. I was just like, oh, I don't want to play this game. I already play the game like one headphone off. Like both of them just came off. I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I don't want to hear anything. But yeah, really, 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 really enjoyed the game. I think I didn't enjoy the latter 2 sections. I thought. I didn't mind the third one. I just didn't like the fourth one. It just felt like a generic first person shooter. The 4th section with
the 4th section is where it became, for lack of a better term, a Resident Evil game.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the section before. Oh, I guess it's kind of broken up into 5 sections then, because I know there's not in the giant. The bit before that is the bit I completely forgot about that as a section. Yeah, that was the longest bit as well. That was probably maybe along with the first one.
It was quite long, yeah. Oh, I know the bit you're talking about. Yeah, I get that. I think
it was weird because like the last bit was fine, and the start
I failed on it a few times at that point.
Really,
I found it a bit tough. Yeah,
it was. I think. I can't remember if I found it. I can't remember what I think I played it on normal, so it wasn't too tricky in that sense. Like normal's not too bad, but I know a lot of people play it on hard. But yeah, as a game, I think it's really good. I'm kind of excited to play in third person just to see how it's different. I'm looking forward to the DLC because I've heard good things. Ending made me a bit sad. Not in a this is crap, but just like I just thought it was a bit sad. Like I really enjoyed it. Really, considering going pretty much straight from 7 into 8. Yeah, thought it was just really, really good. And it's nice that they've had kind of back-to-back original Resident Evil titles that have been good, considering what, like 5 and 6, how they were reviewed at the time. I remember when 6 came out and people were just like, I wasn't playing them at the time, but people hated it. And then Zach reaffirms every time we mention 6, just don't play it. Just don't play it. It's terrible. But
it's not good. What I will say is I had elements of enjoyment in Leon's campaign, but it maybe helped that I played through 6 entirely in co-op with a friend. So maybe that made a difference.
Make it.
But yeah, I agree. 8's an excellent game. I do think 7 is better just because it's
I think so
consistently better from start to finish.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I really enjoyed 8. I'm very curious to try it in third person.
Yep.
And play the DLC, which I won't say anything about because Zach hasn't played the main game.
I was just going to say really, really quickly, I think if 8 was just focused around those first 2 areas, I think I think it would have been as good as 7. I think it's because 7 is so centered around that specific location apart from the end.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it succeeds because of that.
Yeah, and it does avoid some of 7's problems. 7's key problem was lack of enemy variety.
Yeah.
And they addressed that. And I think when people think about 7, I think they similarly to 8 to an extent. I think you think about the first half a lot more than you do the second.
Yep.
The second half, kind of similarly. Once you started getting more weapons and getting more ammo, and it became a little less scary.
Yes.
I think it had kind of similar problems. It was maybe just a little more exacerbated in 8.
I think that's what Resident Evil games are kind of like. I mean, every Resident Evil game I can think of, the first section is always the strongest. So Resident Evil 0, you're on the train at the beginning, and it's fucking awesome. And then it turns into a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 1, you're running away from the zombie dogs, and like you're just on your own, you don't know what the fuck's going on, and then it turns into this whole plot thing, and it turns into a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 4, you're in the village, right? And it's all spooky, and they're not zombies anymore. You don't know what you're doing, and everything's weird as a dog, and then it turns into a Resident Evil game. They're always a bit like that. They, as soon as 4 is a great example, because then you have the castle section and the island section and all that stuff. I think maybe it might be a limitation of the medium a little bit. I mean, in film horror, that horror films are always really short, right? Because you can only be freaked out by the monster for so long.
Yeah.
Sorry, are you about to say something?
No, I agree with that. The only thing that popped into my mind for a second there, a tiny thing about 4 Remake that I forgot to mention earlier. So a bunch of people got to play it and spoke about their thoughts after the day after the showcase. And one of the interesting things that kind of signaled that maybe more was going to change in the game than they've currently let on. A lot of the previews said they got to the bit where in the game you get the choice to free the dog from the trap.
Oh, yes.
And in the remake, the dog's just already dead.
Yeah.
And they kind of spoke to some of the Capcom reps there, and they were like, that's a kind of tease for like, not everything is going to go the way you think it's going to, and things like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that.
That was totally off topic. It was just a thing I thought about because you mentioned the dog.
It's a really good point though, because that's something we hadn't mentioned. And I think it seems to be one of the concepts that's circling around is that thing about the dog, because that's such an iconic game.
Just so long as it doesn't go full Final Fantasy VII remake and just I loved Final Fantasy remake, and I can't wait for the rest of it.
Yeah, me too.
But I understand why people are a bit miffed about it.
Yes, I understand too. They leaned very hard into the remake part of 7, shall we say?
And then in such a Japanese auteur way, they're like, no, it's remake. You're like, okay.
Yep. Yeah. All right. But all I was going to say is Resident Evil 8, really good. Really good. I'll probably be playing Persona 5 all the way up to God of War, which I just pre-ordered today. By the way, if anyone is listening from the UK, God of War at Curry's currently has a 15% discount on it. So the PS5 version of it is now £59. So if anyone is listening, check out
Thank
Curry's.
you. You just decided where I'm pre-ordering that from.
Yes.
And if you're listening and feel like pre-ordering either Pokemon Scarlet or Violet, similarly, at Curry's, if you pre-order, you can get 20% off.
Oh, wow.
And it will cost you just $39.99. I sound like I'm reading an ad for Curry's. This is not an ad for Curry's. It's not sponsored. Curry's is apparently just the cheap place to buy video games in November 2022.
Not only delicious food, but just delicious deals and content. Not sponsored yet. Check that out, because I was worried earlier that it was going to go because so many people were looking at it. Don't like when you go on Curry, sometimes it tells you how many people are looking at a thing. It was like 1,000 people at that specific time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy it now. But yeah, Resident Evil 8 Village is great. As Tony the Tiger once said. That's it. I'm done. Guys, what have you been playing? Anyone? Zach, actually, you probably haven't had a chance to get near a console still.
I'm still not near a console. I'm trying to buy.
Well, you saw me. To be fair, you should.
Oh, do it.
You beat me.
Oh yeah, I did. I beat Johnny at Smash.
You did.
This is such a good moment for me. Every week we come in and I say, "Oh, last time I played Smash with Johnny, you beat me." I won.
You did.
It was so close. And I won by one kill. I think.
Yeah. Who were you each playing as?
Random.
It was totally random.
Rosie, my wife was basically shouting out numbers across and down, and then we were just picking them based on that. Nice. To be fair, I will say one thing before Zach starts, and this isn't bad. This isn't sour grapes. Is that? Yeah. He deserved to win. I was somehow like shambling along and just managed to keep like beating him in like the most shambolic kind of ways. You were kicking my ass. I think it was only a 1-point victory, but you kind of kicked my ass the entire time.
Do you know what though? It raised a really interesting point that we were texting about again. the fact that Smash has such a big roster
Yeah.
that random doesn't really work anymore.
I was about to ask why you had your own random system for a game that has a random system.
Well, that was just because it was fun. But
Yeah.
random,
Okay.
the problem with random is that there's no way to know all of the characters. So most of the time when we're playing random, I mean, also Johnny and I don't have the same amount of free time as we did when we were kids, obviously. Yep. But like, we're picking up a new universe. Like, oh, okay, so I'm going to be, Mega Man, and you're going to be
Fox.
the dog and the bird, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, for the first 20 minutes of, well, I said the first 20 seconds at least of a match, it's going to be us just going, oh, wait.
How do I play this?
What does that move do?
Yep.
Oh, I'm dead. You know what I mean? So actually, to be honest, a big part of what we were doing was just being dumb and stupid and because we didn't know how to play characters.
I would say there was some genuine frustration, but I'll admit on my behalf, half the time, because if Zach kicked my ass, I'd be like, man, you just kicked my ass. But if I would jump. But I didn't know how the character, because like I have played a lot of Smash, but I haven't played that enough of it where I'm like, I know all of the characters inside out. I know the ones that I know, and then the ones that I don't know, I just haven't got a clue. So like when you jump, you expect it to do the same thing as other characters when they jump and have the same, at least kind of response. But some of them don't. And when it's like you jump and then you just fall straight down, you're like,
yeah.
Like what the hell? This is crazy. Like, and you get so annoyed by that. You die in the most ridiculous ways, and that was annoying, but otherwise, you still kick my ass.
I think next time, if we play again, we should just do either both of us has a character we know, or both of us has a character we don't know. It's only when there's the mismatch.
It's when the mismatch.
That's so lame.
Yeah, the mismatches usually ended up in like 3-0s or 3-1s.
Yeah, and then we just like put our controllers down. We're like, neither one of us enjoyed that.
I should also point out as well that I was trounced in general that day by my wife and Zach, who beat me in Mario Kart.
Technically, we beat you. That's right.
You did. It was
our combined scores. Beat Johnny on his own, and not even by that much.
My team was shit. I was so annoyed. So we had this, like it was just like I think like so it was Zach and Rosie on the computer versus me on the computer. Obviously, like I had one less human. So Zach and Rosie were finishing basically like between the top 3 positions all the time. We all 3 of us were finishing there all the time. The problem is my team were like them finishing like 12th to 10th all the time. I was like, you stupid dicks, screw me over.
It's the game trying to offset you.
Totally. It's like it knew. The only other thing I wanted to mention about this is I didn't know that this happened. If you do 2 teams in Mario Kart, I've never done teams before. If you do 2 teams and you're in second place, but the person who's in first place is on the other team, you can get blue shelled in second place. And that is just not okay.
It's not okay.
I'm not okay with that at all. There's nothing more frustrating than a blue shell, except for being in second and getting a fucking blue shell.
There's something worse, because it definitely did happen. Rosie was in third place and got a blue shell, because Wario was in second and I was in first, and Rosie got blue shelled in third. And
so
she was not happy. Bless. She's not a happy puppy. But it was I had a bit of a beatdown that day, but it was good fun. It was good to see you, man.
Callum, what have you been playing?
Yes.
Same as during the last podcast, I've got too many games on at the moment, so I'm trying to now hit at them kind of one at a time. So I'm back on Yakuza Kiwami 2. I am nearly done from what I'm told. So Zach, you might remember Sam Lee. It's his favorite game series, and he's introduced me to them. And he tells me we're really close to the end, so hopefully we'll be finishing that soon. At that point, I will then be going back to Resident Evil 2 that me and him are playing together.
Nice.
Then what else did I start? I started Last of Us Part 1 that I haven't finished yet.
What are you saying you were playing that? Because you've got the new version, haven't you?
Yeah.
Have you played the original, I guess?
Yeah, many times.
How far are you into the remake campaign?
Not loads, to be fair. For people who are worried about spoilers about a 9-year-old game. I'm at the point where Tess has just died, so I'm really not very far in.
I haven't played it yet.
Hasn't played it yet today.
That's really not a spoiler. That's like early in the game.
It's very early in the game. Like I'm a few hours in. I really appreciate it for what it is. And the only reason I haven't gotten back to it is that I've started too many games at once. And because I've played Last of Us before, it's not the first one I will jump back to when I'm picking up the games. Unfortunately, for as much as I've got all these games going, I will drop all of them for Ragnarok in a couple of weeks and pray that I can finish the story of that in time for Pokemon Violet. I
just want to add ACP in the chat. Tess dies! I found that funny. ACP also said earlier, and I missed it, so apologies, ACP. Were you playing with the controller upside down again? No, just got my ass kicked. That's just what happened.
Has that really happened?
We used to play games on stream with the controller upside down because ACP would trigger us to play him upside down. And,
nice.
What was it?
She made me play The Last of Us online with an upside down controller, which is hard enough. It's a hard enough game as it is.
Yeah.
Upside down controller.
That must have been impossible.
Yeah, I also had to do the final boss of Wind Waker upside down controller.
Oh,
which was fine. It wasn't bad. It just took forever.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm using the anyway. Yeah, that's what that's about. Yeah.
But yeah, Callum, you mentioned God of War. I am super excited for that. I'm trying not to actually look at too many clips of it because I just beat the original. It's taken me years, but as soon as they started talking about the remake, I was like, okay, I should probably get around to finishing that game. And it was awesome. Like just as soon as I actually dedicated some time to it, I was like, okay, I get the hype. This game's awesome. So I'm really excited for that.
And be careful online. Thankfully, I haven't run into them, but I know that spoilers are out there.
Oh my god.
Originally, the belief was that someone who was reviewing the game maybe didn't realize that their PSN profile and Twitch were linked. This Twitter profile had no bio. None of the tweets that were going up had any text. Just screenshots throughout the game were going up on this Twitter page. But then someone looked into it, and it wasn't being posted through the PSN API. They were just being posted, which means whoever was doing it was deliberately posting.
Oh wow, that's a very different, because I heard that story as well, but I didn't hear the second part, so that's very interesting.
So yeah, it wasn't being posted through PSN. It was just the pictures were just being uploaded to Twitter for the web, so they were deliberately posted. And so yeah, as soon as I was reading about that, I was like, cool, I'm going to stay very far away from that corner of the internet.
Yep. Mute God of War for the next 3 weeks at least.
Oh god, there's still. I hate this period of time when you're that close to a game that it is currently it's 2 weeks out yesterday, or 2 weeks out today. I think it's
Wednesday. Yes, it comes out
the
on
9th.
Wednesday. Yeah, it comes on the 9th.
I keep confusing it in Sonic Frontiers because for some reason Sega decided they could totally take on God of War. It's 2 weeks away, and yet that 2 weeks is going to feel like so long.
Yep. What was I going to say? Because we're gonna have to wrap this up soon because I'm gonna have to shoot. I just want to finish the podcast by saying we spoke about it last time, and I just want to say actually watched Sonic 2, and I thought it was good. Thought it was fun.
Wow,
good film, right?
Just said at the start of the podcast, I had a bit of a rough time. Last week and what have you leading on, I was like, I just need to watch something silly and fun. Watched it and I was like, that's exactly what I needed. It's not trying to be The Godfather. I would love it if it did try to be The Godfather, but also it was great. It was just fun and I enjoyed it. I'm imagining they're gonna make a 3 soon. Surely.
Did you watch into the credits a little bit?
Must have, because I'm fairly certain we did, and we were like, oh yes, I did. Yes, yes. So
they'll be doing a third. The big question right now is whether or not Jim Carrey will be part of it, because after the film came out, he said he's retiring from acting. And everyone was like, whoa, but Robotnik's such a big part of the story that post-credit scene set up. So what's going to happen there? Who knows? Hopefully they'll convince him to come back and do a third one.
Yeah.
I mean, after the first one, he said he doesn't like doing sequels. And
Yes.
he came back, so
that's what I was going to say. He does not like doing sequels. Like, he's done like 3 sequels throughout his entire career. One was Dumb and Dumber 2. The other one was Ace Ventura. And then I think this is the only other one he just does not like doing sequels, which is fair play to him. He's going to do a third, hopefully, if he comes back.
I hope so.
All right, Zach, we need a title for the episode, so give us something we can use.
It's a lot of pressure.
That's a great title.
That's a great title. That's a lot of pressure. There we go. I really enjoyed that. Awesome. I don't know why I enjoyed that so much. All right, we'll leave it there anyway. Thanks, gents. We'll be back next week. We're back next week. I'll have more Persona to talk about, I guess. I imagine. I've got 2 weeks, as Callum said. We've got a timer now until God of War. I've got 2 weeks to beat Persona 5. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to happen.
I was going to say, good luck. That is a massive game.
I'm on 15 hours already, so I've...
Okay, fair enough. So it might be possible.
It might be possible. I'm trying to put like at least an hour or 2 every day, and then on the weekends blast through it. But I've got 2 birthday weekends to get through, so I don't think that's going to happen. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.